Hello all, I'm Marin. Welcome to another reading vlog. Today's reading vlog is going to be all about me trying to accomplish all of my outstanding reading goals before the end of the year. I have 10 days until the end of 2025, and I have a number of books that I would like to try to get read. Some of these are more feasible than others, but we're gonna see how we can do. So let me go ahead and take you through the TBR and let you know why I need to read each book. So first of all, I have one book left on my 2025 TBR, and that is The Witch's Heart by Genevieve Gornichec. I have never yet failed to complete a yearly TBR, and I don't want to start this year, so I need to get this book read. I do have an audiobook version of this as well, so I'm hoping that I will be able to get this done over the course of a couple of days and cross this one off of my TBR. This has been on my TBR for a while, and I have obviously a physical copy, so I want to get it read this year. So that's the first one that I'm hoping to get to. Then I had a goal to complete the Queen's Thief series by Whalen Turner. I have read the first 4 books, which means I have 2 books left to read. Number 5 is Thick as Thieves. This one is not very long. I think it's like just at like 330 pages-ish. And these are typically classed as, this one's classed as teen, but some of the books in the series have actually been classed as like middle grades, so they're usually pretty quick reads. I do have audios of both this and the next one that I'm going to talk about, so I'm hoping that I can get those done quickly as well. So Thick as Thieves is number 5, and then Return of the Thief is number 6. Now this one is deceptively large. The print in this book is pretty big. It's got pretty big margins. There's some blank pages and things as well. So this one clocks in at 453 pages, but I don't think it's actually that long. The audiobooks for both of these are within just like an hour of each other, so I'm hoping that this will be a quick read, even though it's pretty hefty. So that will complete the series, which will check that series off my TBR and complete one of the goals I'd set for myself. Now I had a goal to read, or finish, I should say, 12 series in 2025. That's not going to happen, but I do have one that I can get caught up on before the end of the year, and that is the Wayward Children series by Seanan McGuire. I need to read this one right here, which is book 10. This is Adrift and Currents Clean and Clear. She has her newest release coming out in January, so getting this read will get me ready for that new release, and I will finally be caught up on this. I have been reading this series for like 3 or 4 years. So definitely need to go ahead and get on track with this. These are very quick novellas. They take me about an hour and a half to get through on audio, so I'm hoping that obviously I can check this off without too much trouble. And then the final book that I know I'm going to get read in this vlog is Lights by Brenna Thummler. This is her 3rd graphic novel installment in her Sheets series. I've read Sheets and Delicates, and I just need to read Lights to finish that series off. That's a series that I actually started within the last month or so because I found them on Hoopla, available through my library, so I've been reading those on my computer. That's where I'm going to read the 3rd one as well, so that one will definitely get done. Now, if we talk about things that I am not sure I'm going to get read in this vlog, let's move on to one of them. One of them is Killer on the Road by Stephen Graham Jones. This was a Literally Dead book club pick for this year that I did not get to. It was in a bind-up of The Babysitter Lives and Killer on the Road. We were supposed to read both of them. I think, was it September or October? I don't remember. One of those months. I did get The Babysitter Lives read, but I did not get to Killer on the Road. I do not know if I'm going to be able to get to this one. This one I do have available on audio. I bought it through Audible because my library didn't have the audio of this one. So I would love to get that read in this vlog as well, so that I don't have to carry that over. I have a whole plan next year to catch up on all of the Literally Dead book club picks that I have not yet read, and it would be nice not to have to add this one to that pile as well, but we'll see. This is kind of a much lower priority, but I would love to squeeze it in if I can. And then finally, because, you know, we have to overextend ourselves and reach for the stars, I also would like to read at least one more Nancy Drew book. I had a goal to get through number 48 this year. That's probably not going to happen. I have 3 books left, but I would love to at least get one more read because my goal is to finish the original 56 next year in 2026. So that is the very large TBR. and we're gonna just see how well I can do. So obviously these 4 plus lights are the priority, and then we'll see what else I can squeeze in over the course of these 10 days. So without further ado, let's get reading. All right, I have a couple reading updates because I have finished a couple books since I started the vlog, which is good. So I just finished listening to Thick as Thieves, which is, as I said, book 5 in the Queen's Thief series. I'm giving this one 4 stars. As is the case with any of the books that don't focus on Eugenides as a main character, I miss him while reading these. But this one had a nice little romance, potentially more. She never explicitly says it, but I think it could lean more between Costas and Hammett, that's his name. So let me go ahead and just kind of do the synopsis for this. These are interconnected standalones technically, although they work better if you do read them in publishing order. So as I said, this is book 5, but this one doesn't actually have any spoilers, I don't think, so I can just kind of read through. It's a long synopsis, so I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but it says, deep within the palace of the Mede Emperor, in an alcove off the main room of his master's apartments, Hammett minds his master's business and his own. Carefully keeping the accounts in his own counsel, Hammett has accumulated a few possessions, a little money stored in the household's cash box, and a significant amount of personal power. As a slave, his fate is tied to his master's. If Nahuzaresh's fortunes improve, so will Hammett's, and Nahuzaresh has been working diligently to promote his fortunes since the debacle in Aetolia. Now that is referencing... it's the Queen of Aetolia, I believe, is where that kind of all falls down, but then we have some continuations in book 3, which is the King of Aetolia. So that's where you meet Nahuzaresh and Hammett for the first time. So then it says, a soldier in the shadows offers escape, but Hammett won't sacrifice his ambition for a meager and unreliable freedom, not until a whispered warning of poison and murder destroys all of his carefully laid plans. When Hammett flees for his life, he leaves behind everything: his past, his identity, his meticulously crafted defenses, and finds himself woefully unprepared for the journey that lies ahead. So I'm going to stop there because it does mention one of the characters that we meet in like a previous book, and I don't want to spoil that. But anyway, so Hammett is taking on a journey to escape Mede. That is the country where he lives. He is a slave there. He is not a Mede. He just is living there and working, quote unquote, as a slave. And he is taken by an Aetolian soldier who has been tasked with bringing him to Aetolia for reasons that we get in this book and in those previous ones, so I don't want to spoil that. So basically the book is all about his and the soldier's journey out of Mede and his journey to Aetolia. Now, Hammett does not want to go to Aetolia. He views Aetolia as like a very backwards country, and he does not want to go there. However, he is being forced through circumstances that happen in this book against his will somewhat, and he becomes ever closer to Aetolia as he flees this country because he is afraid, well, rightfully so, that he is going to be blamed for the death of his master, because right before this, his master beat him pretty severely. So there's like that revenge plot thing. So anyway, he flees, and that is basically what this book is about. I did really like him and the soldiers. I don't want to say banter, but they have a good relationship. There's some laugh out loud moments. Hammett is very well educated, and he has a lot of stories about a god and a thief, I think. I can't really remember now. That he is telling throughout this. And this book is actually his written account of his escape from Mede. So that's kind of the premise of this. He's writing it to put into the archives, if you will. So I really enjoyed this one. I'm giving it 4 stars. That tends to be about where I sit with most of the books in this series, but I really liked this one, even though, as I said, not enough Eugenides. He does come into play in the last, I don't know, 20-ish pages, maybe the last couple chapters. So you do get to see him in this book, but he is not the focus. And I do prefer the books where he is the focus, but that's not to say this wasn't good. I did really enjoy this, and this checks off book 5 of 6. So I will need to read one more book in this series to complete it in its entirety, and I will do that later. However, I am not going to read Return of the Thief next. Instead, I am going to read The Witch's Heart because this one I need to get read before I film my 2025 TBR wrap-up, obviously. And that is, I wrote out my Bookmas schedule. That is the 4th video that goes up, and it goes up on Sunday. And today is Wednesday. So I need to get this one read so that I can get that video filmed and up on time. So I'm going to pause on the Queen's Thief series to tackle this one next. So this will be the next one that I'm reading. However, I did finish another book yesterday. I finished reading Lights by Brenna Thummler. So I did finish the Sheets series. This one really focuses a lot on Wendell. Wendell is a ghost that we meet in the first book. And this is all about trying to figure out what happened to Wendell, like what happened to him, how did he die, etc. And it's very bittersweet at the end. It definitely tackles some heavy topics, much like the other two did. These are not light-hearted graphic novels, so be forewarned. But the author mentions in her notes at the end, I guess, that the reason she wrote these books is because she knows how important it is for teens or middle grade ages. The main character is in 8th grade at this point. So middle schoolers, to see bad things happen, to realize that they are not the only ones experiencing this, that this is something that happens kind of universally, and to kind of give them some tips and tricks to tackling these heavier topics. So the previous installments have tackled things like grief. We have a character that suffers from depression in Marjorie's dad. We also have some bullying that happens in the 2nd book, and we have like the fallout of that in this 3rd installment. We have a character that just really doesn't fit in with the mainstream, so kind of tackling individuality and how difficult it can be to be yourself in the middle school setting, and also just in general tackling just a lot of really heavy topics. This one definitely continues with the thread of grief. We meet a character who played a role in Wendell's past as Wendell is trying to figure out what happened to him and what ultimately caused his death, because he cannot remember. And so Marjorie and Eliza, who we met in book 2, and Wendell are kind of setting out to discover the truth behind Wendell's death. In that same installment, we are dealing with Marjorie, who befriends 2 of the girls who were responsible for bullying Eliza, and Eliza obviously has a lot of feelings about that, but it kind of tackles the fact that some people need multiple friends in order to feel happy and have a meaningful life, which is the case of Marjorie. And then you have people like Eliza that maybe can do with only 1 or 2 friends. And so that kind of is a topic of conversation as well. So I really liked this one. As I said, the ending was pretty bittersweet, but I really liked this installment. I liked the way the whole series wrapped up, and I would definitely recommend. These are very pricey if you purchase them though, so do not purchase them. Find them online. I found them through Hoopla, as I already mentioned. My library had them, so check that out first, but I would really recommend them. They are very well done. So I'm glad that I gave that one a read, and that is another series that I can check off the TBR, which is exciting. So 2 books done. That means I have 3 books left that I definitely wanted to read. And as I said, this one is going to be the next one that I'm doing an update for. I'm thinking I will probably do an update when I'm halfway through. I feel like that'll kind of give me a good idea of what's going on. I have a friend that really liked this one, so I'm hoping that I do as well. I've heard that the writing is really beautiful and it does deal with mythology. I tend to really like books that deal with mythology. This is Norse mythology because Loki is mentioned in the summary. So let me go ahead and read the summary, and then I'm gonna get back to reading. So this says, when a banished witch falls in love with a legendary trickster Loki, she risks the wrath of the gods in this spellbinding, propulsive debut novel that reimagines Norse mythology. So that gives you a good idea of what this is about. So we are following Angrboda. She is a witch It says her story begins where most witches' tales end, with a burning. A punishment from Odin for refusing to provide him with knowledge of the future, the fire leaves Angrboda injured and powerless, and she flees to the farthest reaches of a remote forest. There she is found by a man who reveals himself to be Loki, and her initial distrust of him transforms into a deep and abiding love. Their union produces 3 unusual children, each with a secret destiny, who Angrboda is keen to raise at the edge of the world, safely hidden from Odin's all-seeing eye. But as Angrboda slowly recovers her prophetic powers, she learns that her blissful life and possibly all of existence is in danger. Okay, so that's a good enough synopsis. So yes, I'm looking forward to reading this. I've heard good things, and again, this is a physical book that I own, so I do want to get it read, and I'm hoping that I like it. I have another book by this author on my TBR. I think it's called The Weaver and the Witch. Here's the cover. I have not heard necessarily anything about that one. It's quite a bit longer than this one, so we'll see what I think about this, and then I will decide if I want to go ahead and read that one as well. But yes, this will be the next book that I do an update on, and I will let you know my thoughts and things like that. I think after I finish The Witch's Heart, I am actually going to go ahead and knock this one out because this one is a quick read. I should have this done in a couple hours. So these will be the next 2 books that you hear about in this vlog, and then I will tackle Return of the Thief. So also, you saw a little clip where I was folding up pieces of paper and putting them in this jar. This is going to be for a vlog series that I'm doing in 2026. On these sheets of paper, slips of paper I should say, are all of the books that I purchased in 2025 and 2024, because I have done horrendously at reading books that I've purchased, and I bought way too many books in 2025. So I'm going to use this jar as part of a vlog series where I will draw out books and I will read them in the vlog. So that's what I was prepping this for. I got this jar from Marshall's. It's really cute, but yes, it gives me room to reach my hand in and things like that. There are a few books that I forgot to add actually, so you will hear more about this when I do my channel updates video, because I'm going to talk about all of the vlog series that I'm hoping to film in 2026. But yes, that's what I was doing when you saw that while I was listening to an audiobook. So enough of that. I need to film my next Bookmas video, which is going to be my winter TBR. So I'll link that up above because it will have gone up before this one. So you can go back and watch that if you want. But 2 books done, 3 more to go. Let me stop talking and get some things done. Hello all, I have a reading update for The Witch's Heart. I am like 60-something, 67% of the way through, I believe. I just started part 2 a little bit ago. So yep, right here was part 2. So I currently have this much left. I'm hoping to get this done today so that I can like stay on track with what I need to do and film for like my end of year content. This one is part of the next video that I need to film. So I need to get this one done. So I am not as familiar with Norse mythology as I am with like Greek or Egyptian mythology. The knowledge that I do have of Norse mythology comes from this series right here actually, which is Magnus Chase by Rick Riordan. So that's kind of the extent of my knowledge of Norse mythology. I know a little bit aside from that, but those books really did delve into the main gods and the relationships and things like that. And that is literally the extent. So I was not familiar with the story of Angrboda, who is Loki's wife. And I should say she is like his giantess wife because he also is married to a goddess. So I was not familiar with this story at all. So a lot of this has been new to me because this stuff was not really delved into in that series that I was just talking about. Angrboda has the gift of prophecy, and because of that, Odin wants her to tell him what she has seen, and she's kind of withholding that information from him. So that's kind of, I guess, the main conflict here. So she basically is killed 3 times because she will not give Odin what he wants. She kind of goes into hiding of a sort where she is found by Loki. They fall in love, and she has 3 children by him that are not human children. So one of them looks human, but she is like half dead. The other one is a wolf, and the last one is a snake, because Loki is a shapeshifter, so that comes out in his children with Angrboda. And she is considered a witch. So that's kind of the setup for this. The first part ends with like this very traumatic thing that happens to Angrboda and her children. And then part 2 picks up with her, I guess, sort of on a quest to set things to right as well as she can, and to seek out information about who she was prior to being the witch who was killed 3 times, burned at the stake 3 times, because she has lost her memory of her like past life, basically. So that's kind of where we are right now. She's setting out on this journey to find out who she was. So I'm really enjoying this so far. I've learned a lot in terms of the Norse mythology, as I've already mentioned, but I also just really like Angrboda as a character. She has a friendship with a woman named Skadi, who is also part of the Norse pantheon, I guess. So I like that. There are hints that they could be more than just friends. That kind of came out in like the most recent part that I read. And I just really like their friendship, and I like Angrboda as a character. So I'm very curious to see what's going to happen next, and if she's going to be able to accomplish what she wants to accomplish. I'll just put it that way without spoiling anything. So I'm enjoying this. I like the writing a lot. The audiobook is well narrated, so no complaints so far, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this is going to end. So definitely some emotional parts have happened already, and I anticipate there's probably going to be some more before we're through with the book. But yeah, I am currently on page 236. Now, this book does not have chapters. It has like breaks in the narrative. So you can see like the gap right here. That's how this book is divided up, aside from part 1 and part 2. Because I don't think there's a part 3. Let me kind of just scan through. Oh, there is a part 3, but it's like the very end of the book. So the bulk of this is part 1. Part 2 is much smaller, and then part 3 is tiny. So anyway, that's my initial thoughts. I'm liking it so far. I'm glad that I'm giving it a read, because it probably would have sat on my shelf unread had I not done that. And hopefully I can finish it tonight and give you full thoughts on this one tomorrow. So that's my reading update. Now I need to film the next Bookmas video that is going up tomorrow, actually, because I filmed it once and I didn't like it. So I'm refilming it in a different way. And then I'm hoping that I can film a second video as well. So we'll kind of see how that goes. But yes, that is the plan for the rest of my afternoon. My parents are going to come over and have dinner with me, and then I'll have the evening again to do whatever I need to do, probably editing videos. So I'm going to stop talking so I can film those videos, and then I will get back to reading this one and hopefully be able to share final thoughts with you tomorrow. All right, all, I have finished The Witch's Heart, and I am giving this 5 stars. I really liked this. The writing is really beautiful. It's kind of lyrical, which really works with like the whole mythology retelling aspect. But we are mostly focused on Angrboda's personal journey, I think. Her finding her place in the world and trying to reclaim her past, which she has forgotten. So she's kind of set out to uncover who she is, how she fits in, etc. And I just really liked the overall journey of this. I don't know how faithful a retelling this would be in terms of Norse mythology. I think pretty on point, but I don't know for sure because I've already mentioned I'm not as familiar with Norse mythology. But this does talk about Ragnarok and the end of times. Angrboda, as I've already mentioned, can see the future, so she sees things coming, and then she kind of, I don't want to say sets out to try to change things, but she definitely is trying to use that information that she has to her advantage. One thing I just really liked was her relationship with Skadi. I've already talked about how they have a very good friendship. It does turn into more in the latter part of the book, so I'll go ahead and spoil that little bit for you. So I liked that. Again, not sure how accurate that is, but it worked really well in this book, and I just really, really liked the writing of this. This really pulled me in, kept me engaged. I did listen to the majority of it on audio only, although for the last couple of chapters I did a tandem read. One thing I like about audiobooks, when the book uses words that aren't in the English language, it's nice to hear the actual pronunciation of things. So you're hearing like the Norse pronunciations, which I appreciate because they definitely aren't pronounced the way that they look on the page. So I just like that aspect. That's one of the reasons why I like listening to fantasy books on audio, is that I'm getting the pronunciation correct. So anyway, this was 5 stars. I am really, really glad that I read this. I'm looking forward to reading more from this author. As I already mentioned, she has The Witch and the Weaver Queen out. I don't know if she has anything else out since then, but I will definitely be trying to fit The Witch and the Weaver Queen into my reading in 2026, because this one was just really lovely and I would highly recommend. So 5 stars for this one, which is good because I have had a decent number of 5-star reads in terms of my 2025 TBR, but it's always nice to get one more. So yes, this is the final book from that TBR that I needed to read, and I ended on a high note, so I'm very happy about that. So this one is done, which means I will now be turning my attention to the final Wayward Children book, which is Adrift in Currents, Clean and Clear. I've already talked about that in my little beginning intro thing. This one is following Nadia, who we met in the 3rd book, so I'm looking forward to reading this one. I have heard that some people didn't really like this one. They felt like it was kind of unnecessary, so we'll see what I think about it. This will not take me very long to get through at all. They usually take me about an hour and a half to 2 hours, so I can hopefully get this one done today, which should leave me time to tackle Killer on the Road, but obviously I don't know that for sure because I do also need to read this ginormous Return of the Thief. So let me go ahead and get to reading on this one and hopefully get this one done today. That will leave me 4 days left before the end of the year to read these and hopefully a Nancy Drew. So let's not waste time. Let's get reading. All right, all, I have a couple reading updates. I did finish Adrift in Currents, Clean and Clear, so I am officially caught up on the Wayward Children series, ready for January's release. If I am being honest, I don't feel like this book really needed to be written. I don't feel like it serves much of a purpose in like the overall scheme of the series. What it does do, I guess, is give you a little bit more insight into Nadia, who we meet in the 3rd book, and we come to understand why she so desperately wants to return to her portal world. But in most cases, all of the children we meet want to go back. So that wasn't really necessary. This does give us some representation because Nadia has a limb difference. It also discusses the issue of people adopting from foreign countries, and particularly people who are adopting in order to come across as a quote-unquote good person. These people who adopt Nadia are really only doing it because their pastor recommended it, and they view Nadia as someone who needs to be fixed rather than just appreciating her for who she is and her differences. And so it does address that a tiny bit, but ultimately this focuses a lot on turtles, which Nadia has a fondness for and who play a big role in her portal world. So I just don't feel like this furthered the story very much, and I am giving it 3 stars. I think it's one of the weaker installments in the series, but nothing has quite lived up to the 4th book, which was In an Absent Dream, which is the one I gave 5 stars. So they've all kind of paled in comparison to that, but I just really don't feel like this book needed to be written. It's also almost 40 pages shorter than most of the books in this universe. It has a very abrupt ending as well, so I just feel like this was probably not her strongest work. That's just how I'll put it. So I'm glad I read it because I am caught up now on the series, but it did not do anything for me that I was hoping it would do. So I guess we'll just leave it at that. So that's the update on this one. I did also start the audio of Return of the Thief by Megan Whalen Turner, which is the last book in the Queen's Thief series. I am currently on page 197. I think it says it's at like 43% or something on the audio. So I have this much remaining. This is a chunky book, as I've already mentioned, and I am hopeful that I can finish this today, but we're gonna have to see how it goes because it is lengthy, and I do have quite a few things that I want to film, need to film today in order to stay up with my Bookmas stuff. So I'm kind of surrounded with a bunch of stuff right now. So first of all, I need to cut out the papers for my series vlog that I'm going to be doing this year. I also need to cut out the new Chance and Community shelf cards for my Bookopoly game because I need to film that today. And I have a couple other things that I want to do as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and get those videos out of the way and then settle back in with reading. If you can hear thumping, I'm pretty sure that's one of my cats. I apologize, but anyway, that's the plan. So let me get going on all of that, and when I am officially halfway through Return of the Thief, I will come back and give you an update. So I will see you then. Hello all, I want to go ahead and close out this video because I did finish Return of the Thief. I know I said I was going to come and talk to you at like the halfway point, and then I did not do that. So I actually finished this on the 30th, December 30th, and this was my final book of 2025. It is now January 1st, so Happy New Year to everybody. But this is the first book in this series that I am giving 5 stars because I just thought that this series finale was fantastic. This was everything that I could have hoped it would be. I like that we went back to Eugenides, so we are not in his POV anymore. The only books that are from his POV are the first and second ones, but this one is told from the POV of Ferris, who we met in this book, and he is basically writing down everything that happened. So we are reading his account of things that happened once he came to the king's court. So the book is divided into 2 volumes. They're both called the Book of Ferris. So we have volume 1 and volume 2. Ferris is the grandson of Baron Arondites, who is trying to take over Atolia. He is one of the barons that sit on like the council for the queen, and he does not like Eugenides, who is the king. And he basically wants to do anything and everything he can to get one over on the king. So he does that by sending Ferris, who is special needs. I think I've already mentioned this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it again. Ferris has a physical disability that his family assumes also is a mental disability, which it is not. Ferris is very aware of everything that's going on, and Eugenides figures this out and starts having him see a tutor to help him learn, because he has not been able to learn writing, math, reading, anything, because his family was of the viewpoint that he could not do that. And they didn't want to even take the time to try because he had the physical disability. So he becomes a member of the king's like inner circle, for lack of a better word, his attendants. And at first, people think that he does not have any idea what's going on. It becomes apparent about, I don't know, maybe a quarter of the way through the book that he very much knows what's going on. And at that point, Eugenides does try to hide the fact that he's aware of things, so his tutoring is done like in private because he does not want it to get back to Arondites that Ferris actually does know what's happening, and it's not as big of a joke as Arondites thought it was. So anyway, that's kind of the setup for Ferris being at this court. And again, we get a couple mentions of him in this book towards the end when Camet and Costas make it back to Atolia. So anyway, this one is very much about political machinations. So if you like fantasy with political twists, this is a really good series, even though this is touted as YA. And I would say that the earlier couple of books actually would be like more children's fiction. This gets into some heavy topics, and it definitely gets more adult as the series goes on. So it's still technically classified as teen fiction and YA on Goodreads, but it's really not. This is like true fantasy, but I loved the way that this series came to a close. I liked how everything was wrapped up. I loved getting to see Eugenides again and get to see him through someone else's eyes, because that's always really fun, and I just really had a good time with this. So I'm giving this 5 stars. This was my final book of 2025. Definitely ended on a high note, and it completed a series. Okay, so let's go ahead and do like a little recap. I think I've got everything I've read here, but I did Thick as Thieves by Megan Whalen Turner, which I gave 4 stars. Then I read The Witch's Heart by Genevieve Gornichec, which was 5 stars. I read Adrift and Currents Clean and Clear by Seanan McGuire, which I gave 3 stars. And then I ended this vlog on a high note again with Return of the Thief, which I gave 5 stars. So all in all, not too shabby. I caught up on one series, completed another series, and read the final book on my 2025 TBR. So I cannot complain overly much. I did not get either of the other 2 things read that I was hoping to, but I'm going to use these last few days of this week and my winter break to read those. So I have started Killer on the Road by Stephen Graham Jones. I am currently on chapter 13, which is page 102. This one has 240 pages, so I'm making progress. This one I'm listening to on audio. I did not really like The Babysitter Lives, which is the other book in this bind up. This one is going a little bit better so far. I'm not finding it nearly as confusing. This one I found really confusing. This one's going better, so I'm liking it so far. Definitely horror though, so keep that in mind. And then I am also hoping to read the 47th Nancy Drew book. Is it 47th or 46th? Whatever, 46th Nancy Drew book. So I will read that one at some point this weekend as well. So I can kick those off straight out the gate, even though I did not get to them in this vlog. So that's gonna do it for me. I hope you enjoyed coming along with me as I read my final books of 2025. If you did, please leave me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to my channel if you would like to see more from me. If you made it to the end of this video and would like to leave an emoji to show you were here, you can leave some kind of royalty-inspired emoji in honor of the Queen's Thief series and the fantastic series finale that I read. And I will see you in my next video. Bye, everyone.